Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, checking out the series and the episodes. You know what to do. You like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. I am excited today. Mod's son is on with new music. Hello, man.
Hello, I am more excited than you.
Are you? I don't know if that's true because I'm the one who gets to experience the music that you're making. I think I've got
the more excited. Don't you test me.
It's going to be a duel to the end here. Seriously, man, congratulations. You got the brand new single out, Rich Kids Ruin Everything. And I think what I've seen, there's an interesting phrase that goes along with this, that this kicks off a new era. What exactly does that mean?
Well, this would be like the transition into what I'm about to drop, which is a new album, and getting the campaign rolling and kind of the next statement that I'm going to make. My last album was called Internet Killed the Rockstar, which I felt like it was very loosely, I won't say concept album like The Wall or something like that, but it was definitely like conceptually made from the statement of the album. So this next era is beginning now, and I'll be dropping music up until the album drops.
So are you going for another concept? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm kind of an artist who maybe to my dismay can kind of only write. I choose to only write about what's currently happening in my life, trying to find the story and the arc of that kind of journey that I'm going on currently. So, there's definitely like I have an album title I'm pretty sold on, and been kind of basing every song around that whole. It's kind of like writing a book, and kind of making every song be able to live together instead of like stand alone.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you can't give too much away on that part yet, but as we have the first song here, Rich Kids Ruin Everything, why is this the song that gets to introduce us to this new story?
Well, I really wanted to make a statement song, it's kind of rare that I do that. And I felt like for this era, I kind of wanted to make something that was a look into culture right now and make a statement, which was just like, I mean, at the core of it, honestly, kind of what the song was about was just kind of like wanting to champion originality over trends and following, At this point right now, I mean, if you just like take a look at TikTok in general, it is kind of people seeing what's a trend and doing the exact same thing in hopes of that catching on for them and making them famous. It's kind of this wheel that's being pushed right now to the general public that's like, in my eyes, it's kind of saying copy each other, right? I like to tell people that it's great to push originality. I mean, if we keep going along this route, maybe like the original ideas will become like a lost art, So I just felt it was really important to say something on that. And it's a quite polarizing song. I mean, it's basically like a love it or hate it song. And I think that songs like that take guts. And I think that's how I wanted to start this new cycle, was to have something that had to make me be a little fearless.
Right. I mean, giving it a good challenge out there, and pushing those boundaries. And I think that is an important thing. And it's interesting that what you're talking about with art, because I've gone through the same thoughts, and I think we do. It's this cyclical is not the word that I'm looking for, but you have these moments where you have an explosion of creativity, where you get new sounds, and eventually the copies come from that, and they come from that, and then you have a moment where there's nothing. It's a wasteland out there.
Totally.
And you kind of hope that new wave comes along. What is interesting about what you're saying, and completely agreeing with you on all of that, but this album comes at a time when the type of music that you do is coming at another peak in itself. Like you're not a part of, like you're not chasing the trend. You just have to be putting this out when the trend is happening again.
Yeah, very true, which is super fortunate. I mean, like Um, I think it's a blessing because I definitely enjoy guitar being the instrument of the decade again. I definitely missed as a drummer, like I grew up playing drums in bands. I missed hearing real drums. Like, you know, these are all things that like I definitely missed hearing. And so I think it's like definitely a beautiful thing that's happening right now. And yeah, I mean, here's how to put it, man. It's like a rising tide raises all ships, right? So what's good for the genre as a whole, or what's good for rock music, alt music, pop punk music, all of that, what's good for that as a whole is definitely good for me. And I'm super happy that it's happening right now. And I definitely feel fortunate. Like in my eyes, um, I was fortunate to be doing it right before the big boom of everything, you know? So I don't look at it and feel like, I mean, I can tell you definitely from my experience, I didn't look and see it happening and be like, oh, I gotta switch, I gotta start doing this. Um, it kind of just worked in my favor, you
Right.
know?
Right. And it should be said, I mean, you take this further. There's another quote that I'll pull out that you said, creating a complete landscape of an album, because it's more for you than just the songs on the album. It sounds like, I mean, you're doing well, let me ask, I don't want to put words in your, what exactly do you mean by that when you're creating a complete landscape?
Definitely the visual landscape is like super important to me. And just starting at like the tip of that iceberg would be like music videos, which as a business, there is no like ROI in music videos. You know what I'm saying? Especially
Right.
if you're trying to make music videos that are compelling and visually stimulating to watch. There really is no like, you know, what ROI, return of investment. Like you really don't get anything from it except views, which it can be great for the song, but it's not like a business. It's not like a technically a smart business move. But I don't care. I really, really like when I make a song. Um, I think all I would say for me, almost every song that I make, I close my eyes and I see a movie happening, you know? And I really try my best to pull those visions out of my head. And I've directed or co-directed at the very least, like every music video that I've ever done, pretty much. And I think that's important to the art. Like I just really think that it's important to bring a full picture to what you're doing. And at the very least, I think it's really important for artists to try to pull out what they see inside their head. I mean, a song is something that's intangible, like you can't hold it, but you have this whole giant world living in your head when you make this song. And so I think it's really a special journey to go on to try to create that landscape. And so visually, just like with a music video, you know, with the last album, I made every music video, you could watch them in order, and it'll tell a bigger story, you know, rather than standing alone. So if you go back and watch the videos from my last album, you can start with the first one that I dropped. It goes into the second, third, fourth, then it tells this bigger story. Um, I think that's just like cool. Honestly, I think that's cool. I think that's fun for someone to be. I think it helps build a community, which is my number one focus as of right now. At least I think I was kind of subliminally doing that with my last album. Was like being really focused on building a community, and it just kind of worked out that way. Like for this album, I'm really really focused on doing that. So that's where it starts, is the visual landscape. Besides that, it's like um creating an identity for the era, you
Mm.
know, and like I like to curate things, you know, like for social media, some people it's just post every single thing that they do all day. For someone like myself, I like to curate it and kind of have a journey being told on that. I'm a story person, man, really is what I am. I really like to have everything kind of connect into a bigger picture.
Right. That community that you're talking about too. I mean, with these music videos, you, Machine Gun Kelly, Avril, like that seems like the stake that that you've all made as a group. Like there is going to be this visual component, and we're all very excited about it. And it seems like you're building this world beyond just your art. With everybody's art in the middle of it too. Um, because I should point out, like, you've got an upcoming movie that you've co-wrote, co-directed, called Good Morning, which when is that, later this year?
Uh, Sooner than you think.
Okay.
Yeah, dates are so tricky nowadays because you really never know what's going to happen between now and then. But much sooner than you think. There will be news about it, and there will be a true movie coming out that was one of the most gratifying, humbling, and hardest things that I've ever been a part of.
I imagine so. I mean, we're talking about feature length here. So you go from a music video, which, a few days worth of shooting at most, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
for 3 to 4 minutes. And now we're looking at an hour and a half or 2 hours. Like, so
yeah.
how different was it for you? Let's start with the writing to get into that type of exercise, that length.
Well, I would say the bet. Okay, so just to go into why I think I was able to be able to even do something like this is I've got 6 books out. So I understand. My first book is called Did I Ever Wake Up? Which has 12 chapters and is a creative writing / kind of motivational new philosophy kind of book.
Mhm.
I understood and kind of broke down how I would do that chapter by chapter. I understood how to write a book. I think that obviously books and movies live, I would say, in mostly the same world in a lot of ways. And to do that was kind of compartmentalize it. You break these things down into smaller pieces. You have this larger idea. Definitely, you want to be able to make a movie, and you want it to be able to be understood in a paragraph. If you can turn it into a sentence and have it understood about what the movie's about, you are golden. You can do it in a paragraph, great, wonderful. But it all starts with that, and then it's building it out. I think the most interesting, I'll just go to the most interesting part of making a movie. I worked with this gentleman named David Ayer on it. He was part of the company that helped us do this movie. I learned a lot from him. One of the things that I learned from him is creating all this information that will never be known to the viewer. So, like, when you create these characters within a movie, to get the actor to understand that character, you create this entire backstory to tell the actor so they can fall into the character. And this backstory, you were born here, your parents were
Mhm.
divorced, you had 3 friends in high school, your favorite color was red, your favorite band was the Smiths. Like, this stuff will never be said in the movie, but you tell it to the actor so they can understand the character and really give you that performance. I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. I mean, like, creating all this information that no one will ever know. Like, I'm a geek about that. I think that was really cool. I never had heard of such thing or thought of such thing. When you are writing a book, those are all those little details that you put in.
Uh-huh.
But in a movie, you're supposed to be able to feel those components without actually saying it out loud. It might just be the way you look. You were obsessed with the way Liam Gallagher walked, and you have this like walk like that, like it's crazy, man. So that's what I would say would be. I guess I don't know what your original question was, but I wanted to share that piece. That was like the craziest part of making this movie, and it was such a journey, man. It was, like I said, like making an album is something that maybe because I've done it so many times, it's never seemed like a process where I wanted to like bang my head over the wall. Making a movie was like that. I mean, it like really felt like a real job, in a great way. Like, I think it's great to be reminded of, like, as an artist, to be reminded like what a 9 to 5 feels like.
Mhm. It's interesting. I read an interview with late director John Hughes, all the great '80s movies, not
Woo!
too long ago, and he would talk about that. He would say, "I can tell you everything about every character in those towns at any
Yeah,
given points. I could tell you what they're doing right now. I could tell you that." And you think about how big of the world he made in those several movies that kind of encompass that '80s world that he did. It's kind of crazy when you think, like, it's when you have to go through that depth to get to the
Yes,
character.
man. It was wild, and it was a lot of work, and it could seem meaningless at some time at some point, but then you say, you know, you might tell the actor 100 things, and they might pick up on one or two things that change the entire chemistry of the character. And it was really interesting. There was a few things that that were created for these characters that I would tell someone, and they might not connect to all of them, but when they connected to like one thing, that like explained the whole character to them, and they understood that, and it just like made them understand everything about it.
Yeah. You know, I bring up John Hughes, and we talk about influences in music a lot. Now that you've transitioned so much to video, do you see yourself looking towards certain heroes?
Yeah. As far as what in
In
the
the
film
film,
world,
yeah, in the film world, yeah.
yeah, I mean, like Wes Anderson would definitely be like one, just because like I'm a color palette person. So like it's so interesting to like watch those movies and be like, oh my God, like I can see the art behind the color of everything and how that affects emotion. You know, it's so interesting because to maybe someone who would never be watching it for that reason, they have no idea why the color is, or why they're feeling a certain way maybe when they're watching the scene. And it's like, if you understand color palette and like the emotion connected to color, you look at it and you're like, it's just so obvious, and it's crazy how deep you can take it. So like, I mean, yeah, Wes Anderson for sure. Like,
Yeah. No, that's a great answer.
yeah,
And you know, obviously you've got good taste. Even the shirt you're wearing right now, it's speaking of color.
there we go, there
I
we
do like
go.
it. I do like it. Let's see, because I feel like I could hit on so many things, and I know we're on a short amount of time here, but you were also part of Avril's album that just came out. I had her on the series too. We got to talk about Love Sucks. Do you find that, you know, working on her record and working on your record, that the two albums get to speak to each other? Because obviously you all were speaking to each other during this time.
That's a great question. Expand on that. What do you mean exactly?
I don't know, like when you hear your record, when you hear her record, whether it's direct lyrical moments, or maybe it's just musical themes, like what would you call it, like a brother sister type of record scenario, or a sequel series, you know, if you want to, or a bigger story.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of made as a back to back. You know what I'm saying? Like I had finished my album, and then we started working on Avril's. And I think it was more of just like a continuation of this creative state that I was in. My well was very full, you know, throughout that whole process of my album going into hers. It was like I felt like it was great because a lot of times you'll finish your own album and your well might be empty, or you might be like, I'm not done, and you work on this thing for years and years. Fortunate enough for me, I was able to put a bookend on mine and go right into working with her on hers, and it was just like I got to get like every everything out, to the point now, like working on this record, it's been like a different process for me in the form of like, um it's been very spotty, like here and there. It hasn't been like, let me go into the studio for 2 weeks, get all these songs out of me, that's the album. This new album has been made, you know, after we finished Avril's album, my well was full, and I just like started spitting out songs here and there. And it's been like over the last year, like a here and there kind of album, which is a different process for me, and kind of been pretty cool and equally challenging. Like I like a challenge. Honestly, I like a good challenge. Like I can be on autopilot, and just since I come from the world of rap, like I don't really write my lyrics down. I can just go in front of the mic, try to get channeled by something, let everything out, and if it sounds ridiculous, then I'm close to making art, you know? And you know, with this album, it's been a new challenge because it's been like I didn't lock in and just be like, all right, I made 12 songs. These are the 12 songs that are going out. It's been like I made like 30 songs for this album, and they've kind of been here and there. And now it's like pulling them together and being like, how is this interact with each other?
Yeah, I will ask, you know, about making her record, because she and I talked about this. Is it different when you're actually becoming involved with someone in that moment? Because you guys got a great story, I guess is what I'm getting at, you know, and knowing that this record is being made around that, I think kind of captured a lot of people's imaginations.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, you know what? Like, the great part about it is like falling in love with someone while doing what you love to do is a pretty special thing. Usually it kind of happens in reverse, where it's like you fall in love with someone and I don't know, you go out to dinner, you're in like a normal world setting. When you're like in the setting of like, imagine like, you know, falling in love with someone in a cubicle next to you, the person next to you working in a cubicle, and you fall in love with that person that you are sitting next to for years. It's obviously a different dynamic. You know, you see all these different parts of someone before it happens. And
Mm.
it's like making songs with someone um, is a very vulnerable state to be in. And it's kind of like she told me everything about her past, and that like cleared everything out for us to have a clear runway in making these songs and in falling in love. um Song wise, I think we both have a love for the craft, where it was like it wasn't like, oh, we fell in love so now we have to write love songs because we're in love. It was like we can write whatever we want because we understand the craft of art, and we're making an album called Love Sucks. Like, just because it's changing while we're making the album doesn't mean that all of a sudden we had to take a left turn. It was like, you know, we had a vision for it. I should say she had a vision for it. And so uh I think what it affected the songs is that you can hear a joy in making them, whether it's like a breakup sounding song or not. There's like this overwhelming sound of joy like buried in there somewhere.
So that's the backstory of the character that's not in the album that we're
There you
talking
go.
about.
There you go. There
That's
you go.
exactly what that is.
Amazing.
You got the recent documentary that came out, Remember Me Like This. We talk about vulnerable. What was it like telling your story, and why was this the time?
Um, I think okay, so what was it like telling my story? Watching it back is different than being asked questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a very open book. So like when someone's asking me a question, my good friend Rod the Planter had been working on this documentary for about 5 years. And a documentary, as we all know, could go on for 3 years or 35 years. You know what I'm saying? These things you
Mhm.
never know when they're done. Um, Being asked questions about my life super easy because I have no filter, and I'll just say it how it is. Watching it back is like, especially watching with like my mom and my sister, was just like sitting there like, oh god, like really like cut down to the bone on this thing. Um, so it was a little again like I think my antithesis of this whole time right now for me is fearlessness. Um, and so I knew that I had to be fearless and tell this story because um, I think it's I think I find joy in being an artist, where it's like I find that a lot of artists are able to connect with what I do. And I think that's a joy because I know what the life of being an artist is like, and it can become very insecure. It can become very competitive. It can become very competitive with yourself, competing with yourself, trying to outdo yourself all the time, every single day. Um, so I wanted to give solace to other artists out there, as well as kind of what we talked about at the beginning, which was we're seeing this resurgence in this genre that we're in right now, whether it be pop punk, alt, just guitar and drums, period. Um, there's a lot of newcomers coming into it. Love them to death. I just wanted to show where I came from. I thought it was
Mhm.
very important going into this era to be like, it's slightly self-righteous, and that's okay. I think it's okay to do that. I mean, dropping a documentary about yourself is self-righteous, correct? Like, I think it's important to tell the stories that that made you who you are. I think it builds up that sense of community. I want die-hard supporters. That's what I want. That's what I was when that's what my um that's how I partake in music. I like to make music how I digest it, which is like I am a super fan. I get invested into someone through watching and knowing their story and watching interviews. I mean, like, I think I fell in love with Bob Dylan because of No Direction Home, his movie. You know what I'm saying? And because of his book, The Chronicles, which I have sitting right here. Like those are reasons why I fell in love with Bob Dylan. And then he introduced me to people like Jack Kerouac and stuff like that. And then you go down that rabbit hole of finding out what made an artist them. And so, you know, I do that in mine about talking about Drive Through Records. Like, if we're going to talk about like pop punk revival and not bring up Drive Through Records, like, someone has to do that. Like, how many times can we hear Blink-182, Good Charlotte, and Sum 41? Like, it goes much deeper than that. And I wanted to be able to offer that. So that's why I felt it was important. And then, like, at the end of the day, like I said, just showing where I came from, that I grew up playing pop punk music as a drummer in bands, covering songs by the starting line, you know?
Yeah. By the way, also my edition of Chronicles from Bob Dylan is right next to me with 13 Jack Kerouac books right next to it. So funny that you put that together.
Bro, that's amazing, man. Hold on.
Yeah.
Look at, hold on. I'll show you. I'm not joking. Here's this.
Yeah, right.
Beat up, completely beat up. But check out this one. You'll probably get a kick out of this. Look at Ginsberg, but look at. This is one of my pride and joys. Signed.
Oh, no, that's good right there.
So cool. I love it.
No, that's
We're
good.
On the same page. We could talk for hours about that.
I know
shit.
that's a different conversation now. I will say very quickly, Allen Ginsberg's reading of America, his poem America, soundtracked by Tom Waits' Closing Time, is one of my favorite pieces of art ever. So if you've
great taste, man.
Yeah.
We should do a whole other side conversation about stuff like that. The Beat Generation, man.
Let's do that one. Let's set that one up for next time.
Yeah.
As if you don't have enough else on your plate right now. So much going on. Dude, thank you so much for talking about it. Congrats on this new single. I cannot wait to hear the full album and everything that goes along with it. I'm interested. You mentioned, did you get Johnny Resnick on here? Because I think you said something on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, is that going to happen? Because I want that to happen.
We'll see. I'm gonna keep you on your edge of your seat. But special things are ahead. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been awesome and a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. You're great at what you do. I appreciate this conversation. I needed this.